So Soumya, welcome to this debriefing session, and congratulations on scoring a 710. I think let's start with how does it feel? You had a 630 early on, so how does that feel right now?
Yeah, it feels great actually. Preparing for the last 6 months or so with some on and off preparation, owing to the workload, owing to everything else. So it was a very uh, hectic journey in my case. Although it was lockdown and I had everybody would feel that you'll generally get some extra time to prepare, but not in my case particularly. It was pretty hectic, and I'm very very relieved that it did not go beyond the second attempt. Although 710 might not sound a very
Oh, you're in the top 9%.
yeah
That's okay.
yeah
It's
yeah
not bad either. So let's kind of. I didn't ask this question early on in our pre-interview. Did
Mhm.
did you take the in-center GMAT or was it online both times?
Yeah, it was the in-center GMAT
Both times, okay.
both the times, yes.
Both the times, okay.
Hmm.
All right, so let's talk about your preparation. And we're talking about your preparation. You had part one of your preparation where you joined Jamboree and then you prepared, and then part two when you took the test, and then part two of your preparation, which is when you joined e-GMAT and you spent about 40 days to improve from that V27 to V38. So let's talk about each of these parts, and let's talk about the verbal part because that's kind of where the big improvement has come for you from. So how did you prepare for it for the first attempt? What did it feel like while you were solving, sentence correction, critical reasoning, or reading comprehension questions? And then when you moved to the e-GMAT platform, how did that approach change and so on and so forth?
Yeah, so my first part, as you said, that I joined a online classroom program which was with Jamboree, and my verbal preparation started with learning a few rules, especially in sentence correction, and then understanding the question types on the CR, and nothing much on RC actually. So what was I doing was exactly was solving the OG questions and trying to understand where they kind of set up traps and how to identify splits and
How,
to go forward
how
from
would you learn rules? I think let's go back. You said learning rules. So how did you learn rules?
learn rules, like learning grammar rules basically.
No, how? From where would you learn those rules?
The faculty only taught us
You would go to a
like
classroom and they would teach you rules and
no,
then,
it was an online class.
yeah, I mean, if it's
So
online classroom, I mean to say.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
so they used to teach us like rules for subject verb and verbs, modifiers,
Mhm.
and then comparisons, parallelism, so on and so forth.
Got it.
So yeah, so and then you try to apply those rules and everything on those questions,
Mhm.
and so it was like that. Similarly for CR also, then there are this assumption questions where everybody tells you to focus on the negation technique to solve assumption questions, or the evaluate questions where you have to ask that yes or no question to check whether the option is the correct one or not. And for RC questions, it was just like reading the passage, basically skimming through it, uh, only paying much of an attention to the start and the end, and
Okay.
those sort of things. So while doing questions in a class, when a teacher explains that, see how you should approach, you get this feeling, okay, this can be done. This is okay. I can do this. But as soon as those classes got over, and I was actually on my own to prepare to give those mocks and to understand where I am standing, I was frightened by the aspect that in even in some cases, if I did get the answer right, I was not very confident while marking a particular answer choice. Or you would say that I was not confident eliminating the four answer choices. So that was the feeling that I had even when I was going for my actual test. I was not very confident, particularly in sentence correction, I would say. In
Got it.
CR, in CR, I was a bit confident, and RC I actually thought is the luck of the game, because if I would get a science passage, I would excel on it. If I could get a humanities passage,
So truly
I would
dependent
do
on
better.
passage type.
Yes, yes, definitely. For my
Got
first
it.
attempt, it was definitely the case, because I was very comfortable with some of the topics. I was absolutely not comfortable with some of them.
Got it.
So that was the story. Basically, confidence was the thing that I was lacking on my first attempt.
Okay.
But I did not expect to do that bad actually, because my mock test scores showed that I was doing uh, in the range of V32 to 34.
So that was all the other mock tests except the Sigma X mock that you took before your first attempt, which really
Right,
it showed a
right.
V28 or something, I think, if I remember correctly.
It showed a V26.
V26. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
So it's kind of pretty much spot on money when I'm looking at your Sigma X mock over here, and it's a V28. I actually have that over here.
Okay, okay, okay.
That's I thought I remember seeing that V28 and then a Q45 over here. So so you did this. You went. You took the first attempt. You scored a 630,
Hmm.
right? And a
Yeah,
V27 is about a 40th, 41st, 44th percentile, somewhere around that, if I remember correctly.
yeah, yeah.
So did you get your ESR at that point to figure out where you faltered, why you faltered?
Actually, to be honest, I knew while I was giving the exam where I am actually faltering. I was kind of prepared somewhere deep down that I am going to see a dreadful score on the screen whenever this paper is done with, because what happened was my section started. I took the quants first, and when I finished my quant with the feeling that if you do well on your stronger section, you will get that confidence. But actually what happened in my case was I was not able to analyze how I have done on my quants.
Got
Although I
it.
did score a 49, which is quite decent, I believe,
Mhm.
but I was not getting this feeling that I have done a Q49 worthy of an attempt, so I was not
Got
very
it.
confident.
Okay.
And I went into the verbal, and as I told you, SC was my weaker suit. I got
Mhm.
2 to 3 SC questions, which I took a decent amount of time on. Then came two back-to-back CR questions. On the second one of them, I got pretty obsessed with the question because I absolutely understood what the passage was trying to say, but I could not make out which one of the 5 option choices was the correct answer. And I
Got
think I
it.
spent around 3 or 4 minutes on that particular question. I
Wow.
just could not let that question
Everything
go.
looked right to you.
Yeah, everything looked right to me. I could not eliminate any of answer choice. Then after that, I got a humanities passage.
Oh, so it
So
is yes, yes.
yeah,
Lightning
so
does strike twice, or
yeah,
in your case,
absolutely,
quite a few times. Yes.
absolutely. So and that too a three paragraph passage, and I took a lot of time again. And by the time I was done with that CR question and that RC passage, I think I had attempted what 9 questions by that time, and I had already spent around 22 minutes of my 65 minutes.
Got it.
So I kind of panicked, and
Okay.
I absolutely could not recover beyond that point. Absolutely could not.
Interesting.
So I was like going through the motions for the rest of the verbal section.
So you went through that, and then you at that point you'd already interacted with Sandeep from one of our strategy consultants from e-GMAT, and so you then reached out back to him to really say, hey, now I want to take the course.
Yeah.
Why did you not go back to Jamboree? You already had that access.
I pretty much realized that the strategy that they follow for verbal is definitely not working in my case.
Okay.
And I had read the reviews of e-GMAT, and I had read a lot of debriefs on GMAT Club,
Mhm.
and I thought that yeah, this is pretty much where I want to be, where I should invest, and I did not give it a second thought at all. I did not explore or did any more research, did nothing, just went ahead with it.
So you came back, then you bought the verbal online course, and then you started with master comprehension and then sentence correction, if I remember correctly. Is that
Yeah,
so? How
right.
did it feel when you were doing it? You first went through master comprehension, and then you went through the sentence correction. What was the difference that you felt?
uh, See, from my first attempt, what I learned was there has to be some process which has to be followed to get these questions correct, because GMAT is a beast. It tests you on so many different aspects, and if you even pay one a little more attention and put something else on the back seat, you will ultimately going to suffer. And there is no two way about it, and you have to follow that process. So I absolutely trusted e-GMAT scores when it talked about the uh, skills of reading which are taught in this master comprehension course, and the importance of pause points, and to just give the
You're a
time.
convent educated guy, right? I mean, you've gone through an English medium school. You were
Yes,
proud of your English prowess before,
yes, absolutely.
starting with the GMAT.
Yeah, yeah. I was pretty sure that I'll do decently on this particular aspect of GMAT, because I was pretty confident about my verbal skills. So but precisely that's the point. I think that is not what the GMAT tests you on. It's the verbal
It's
reasoning
not
part. So
grammar, it's the reasoning part. It's not the
yeah.
grammar part, yes.
So going through the course, I paid especially a lot of attention to sentence correction, because I felt that I was weak on that, and I even after doing some modules, I was still struggling with verb tenses in particular, when the sequencing of verbs comes. So I paid extra attention, ended up paying quite a lot of time of my entire course on the sentence correction part. But I
Yes.
felt good. When I was done with my sentence correction module, I felt pretty good. Whenever I was doing questions, I could feel the difference. I could eliminate answer choices with confidence. Like,
Solid
yes,
reasons.
yeah,
It didn't seem like, okay, 3 out of 5 answer choices are correct. You could reason out, okay, why is this one correct and why are these incorrect?
yes, absolutely. This was the one major change that I felt, and that absolutely set the tone for the remaining two uh, portions of the verbal, the CR and the RC.
So
So
do you do
yes.
pre-thinking in CR?
Yes, absolutely. I will again admit that I struggled in the CR part as well. I initially thought that this is my one of my stronger suits, but I did struggle on the hard questions, especially. Even after applying the pre-thinking process, I, I tend to
They
choose
are
the
hard questions, right?
yes, they are hard. Absolutely, I did that on the hard part itself. so so yes, I learned that pre-thinking is very important, specifically because the five answer choices in CR are so worded that they will definitely confuse you if you are not clear as to what you are trying to look into those answer choices. You will never actually understand. I mean, go on and pick the correct answer, because all will sound very similar. All will sound and all will be worded in a very similar manner. You will not be able to differentiate unless and until you have a clear picture of what you are trying to look after. So in my case, what changed was that 2 to 3 answer choices, and even in some cases 4, I was absolutely very clear that this is not asked, this is not a part of conclusion. If the conclusion talked about profits, and answer choices talked about say number of items bought or revenue or something like that, I would straight away eliminate that choice. So if
Okay.
so that was the case with me. That helped.
Okay.
The pre-thinking helped me. So yes.
Okay. That's good. Um, I am really glad that you did that overall, and I mean the results truly show. Uh, I'll be very frank. I'm looking at this. So yes, you may really say you did this, but I think and you're saying the course helped you with this, but you yourself have been very diligent. I must congratulate you on that. I mean, I'm going to show you some stats which are from your course. And you talked about verb tenses. I can really see how sequencing is is something that you spend a ton of time on. Even in verb tenses too, you spend a ton of time. I can see that time, but you focus on getting that 100% score, even if you had to do these files twice. And then again over here, and I look at verbing modifiers part 1 and part 2, I can see that effort being put in place. And even though you studied just for 40 days, you spent about 2.5 hours, that the quality is there. And I mean, this is just beautiful when I look at this. These we love to see such stats over here. And this is something which translated into, as you really said, once you start building these good habits, once you start worrying about good scores, over here, you continue. I mean, critical reasoning, same thing. I see the high scores on top, and I'm sure these are good scores in here. And I mean, this is a really good, diligent effort. I want to congratulate you on this. This is it takes an effort to do this overall. And I mean, when I look at these scores, I see, man, this is a guy who's capable of doing a V42, V43 very easily if he puts in that effort. And when I look at you kind of, when I look at this is, I think you didn't see this interface. This is something that we did an update even today, where you can sort them by quiz type over here. So you have taken these ability quizzes. You probably have not done this when you were logged into your account. This is something that was done this week itself. So you can see you've taken ability quizzes. You've taken these custom quizzes over here where you've simulated a full test, a 36 question test. Over here again, you were doing exceptionally well in RC, 94% weighted average score around the 14th of October. These are good scores over here. And then when I look at and when I look at the cementing quizzes over here, I mean, these are hard cementing quizzes. Scoring 71% is truly excellent. And in fact, your scores are, if you go to the dashboard, there's another piece over here. I think I need to kind of zoom it out. So over here, you can really see here, when I go in hard over here, it's 55% overall accuracy. But when I go to just the last 30 attempts, I can really see how that accuracy increases for hard questions. So, and then when I go at all attempts over here and I go for all question types, 69% accuracy. When I go to last 30, again, I think you probably did only hard in the last 30. So that's why this accuracy number is there. But last 30, you can see how well you've done in SC, CR and RC for medium. These are good attempts over here. This is good data. And especially when I look at last 30 attempts, this accuracy, your SC was the best amongst these. You were worried about SC, eventually made it your best.
Yeah, definitely. One more thing I would like to add on here is that focusing on the meaning aspect, absolutely. I mean, everybody pays attention to grammar, I feel, but paying attention on the meaning aspect. I mean, in almost all the questions on the real GMAT second attempt, I could easily eliminate 2 to 3 options straight away from meaning point of view.
That's wonderful.
I was that confident of the meaning aspect that even a slight change in the placement of the modifier would trigger this intuition that yes, this meaning has been changed over here. This is not what the original sentence is trying to communicate. So yes, that was very important. And I have read this somewhere that slowly but surely GMAT is moving away from idioms.
Oh, they have. It's not they are. They are. They have already. Yeah. We were the first ones to really do this. And so you hear Payal's voice, right? In the videos. Yeah. So Payal actually invented the meaning-based approach. This is the third iteration or third generation of that meaning-based approach. So back in 2010, when we launched e-GMAT, we launched e-GMAT with just the sentence correction course. There was no critical reasoning, no reading comprehension, no Quant, no Scholaranium, nothing. It was just one course, sentence correction. And every question in that course was answered using the meaning-based approach. So in September of 2011, so we launched in August of 2010. In September of 2011, Stacy Coprins from Manhattan GMAT, she actually said, hey, GMAT is focusing on meanings. Like they have been doing that for 1.5 years, which is what we've been doing already. So yeah, it's
that's absolutely fantastic. I mean,
in fact, on Beat the GMAT, you know of Ron Purival from Manhattan GMAT?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
So there is an argument between me and Ron in April of 2010, where we were talking about meaning, and he says meaning is nothing, and I'm like, no, here is an official question, 2 options grammatically correct. Meaning is the only difference.
Yeah.
And yeah, so meaning has been there, and they've been off of idioms for about 5 years now. So they're not just slowly moving off; they've been off of it. One thing we didn't talk about was RC. You said earlier on in your first attempt, you just skim through it. Was that your strategy when you took the GMAT?
Surely not, definitely not. I mean, uh, the effort that goes when you read a question, when you skim through the passage and you read a question and then you come back to the passage to try and find where that relevant information is, and the time that you waste, and that crankiness that you develop, that, oh, I read the passage, I almost sort of understood it, but still I'm not getting that correct answer. When especially when in questions like inference questions, when the scope of the question encompasses the entire passage.
Or even a segment of the passage, it's combination inference.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So there, then and there only I had understood that you have to pay due attention to the passage, you have to give time to the passage, and only then you can be sure of answering the questions of the passage with confidence. So I definitely paid attention to each and every
So you would read the
paragraph.
passage well now.
Yeah, each and every paragraph, each and every line of the passage, and the trick that you teach us to pay importance to the contextual importance
Keywords.
words, which change the direction,
Yes.
contrast words, or the words which add more information, like moreover, which continue on the previous thoughts. So that actually did the trick. Even in tougher paragraphs, although I am not very sure how I actually did it on my humanities passage on the actual GMAT, but yes, that definitely helped me to even understand the meaning from context point of view for even tougher passages. Like I got a passage which was like 5 paragraphs long, and this time I got 4 RC passages as compared to the 3 that I got last time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that is good. Oh, you got 4 and you still did well.
yeah. uh, I would like to believe that I did decently on RC as well.
Oh, you
uh,
did. And I think I'm looking at this other piece over here. I'm looking at your timing in RC. I don't know if you can you see the hover over when I do that?
yes.
So your correct average time to answer a question correctly for hard questions in your last 30 attempts was 1 minute 23 seconds.
Yes.
So which is excellent. I mean, where you were confused, you took longer. That's about 3 minutes, but you did most of the questions right. And this is for hard questions. And I'll look at overall over here. Overall, also the average time to answer questions correctly is 1 minute 25. So when you knew stuff, you really got there quickly. This is despite spending a lot of time reading the passage.
Yes. So definitely that's the trick. If you read the passage well, if you understand what the passage is trying to convey, questions really become very simple. You can be very confident in eliminating answer choices and selecting the correct one. So yes, definitely you have to understand the passage.
Got it.
That's the first and the foremost thing.
Got it. Okay. So let's not talk about something else. So we were talking about. Your preparation was different. So you definitely must have been more confident going into the second attempt.
Yes, I was,
Right.
definitely.
When you saw that 710, what was that feeling?
Mm, the feeling was actually I would come back a bit on this. When I did my verbal section, I at this time I attempted my verbal first,
Okay.
because
Oh,
yeah, so this time was a change in strategy.
I
And
actually no. I want to ask one other question. Sorry, before that. So you said
yeah.
you took the exam in the center, right? And this is, I think, very valuable.
Yes.
Like me, you wear glasses.
Yes.
How did you take the test wearing a mask? I mean, what did you do to be able to do that?
I just simply covered my mouth, not the nose. That's that
Okay.
that was I was allowed to do on the center.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay.
So
So that didn't fog your glasses. Yeah, that would not fog your glasses. Yes.
yes, it did not.
And
So
and you could sit through the entire hour and 15 minutes with your mouth covered, not being able to, I mean, breathe as well.
no, that was not a problem. I
That was not a
mean,
problem. Okay.
yeah, that was not a problem.
So I think,
I when I took my first attempt also, that was the case, so I was prepared for it.
did you take any specific mask? Is there something that you recommend?
No, the normal surgical mask
No,
that
normal.
is
Okay.
used
The
in the
normal
hospitals.
surgical.
Yes,
Yes.
that one.
Got it. So let's now talk about the second attempt, the confidence going in, and what was the feeling when you saw that 710 score?
Yeah. So as I was saying, I will go a bit back. I took the verbal first this time because I understood that last time the quant section did not give me much confidence. I had used up some of my energy, so could not focus much on the verbal part. But this time I thought that okay, let me go with verbal first. Let the verbal section be done and away with, and I would be able to concentrate on quants then. So as last time, I was not very sure as to how I had done. I definitely knew that I had done a lot better than my previous attempt, but I was not very sure as to what my
You
range
can never
is.
be sure.
Yeah. So and owing to the fact that this time I had put in a lot of effort to improve my verbal score, because I had understood that verbal makes or breaks your final score. So could not practice much for quants actually, and even could not give a lot of full length tests because of my office commitments. I did not have much of an holidays. I even work on Saturdays in many
Wow.
cases, so I don't have full weekends also with me. So so uh, so when I was doing my quants, I realized that I'm not doing that well as compared to my previous attempt. So I was
Got
like,
it.
when I was done with my quant section, I got this mixed feeling that I might miss my mark. 700 was my target score. Anything beyond that would definitely an
Was a bonus.
added
Okay.
advantage. Yes, it was a bonus. So I thought that my score could end up in late 600s. I got this
Got it.
feeling. So I was very reluctant to do the IR part. I did miserably on that,
Ooh.
but
Never
but
do that. You never know. You're not
yes.
the only one, by the way. This year, I think it's the fourth guy who I'm speaking to who's done that.
Okay. So then came the AWA. I was pretty confident about that. I just wrote it, and I was like, okay, if even if I have to give another attempt, so be it. But let me just go ahead. So I went ahead, and then I clicked on the next, and I saw the score flash up in front of my screen. I was like, wow. I was absolutely thrilled to see the score, because I was not expecting.
You're already ready for the next attempt. It's like, okay, I've got to do it again.
Yeah, I was
And
getting that feeling that I might have to do it again. And given the fact that I was very close to my R2 deadlines, I also had to like pick up online GMAT my third attempt. So all those feelings were already going through, and I was doing the IR section. So I was like, okay, just let me see it. And I had also decided a cutoff score below which, if I had scored, I would have to cancel the score as well. But all of that did not happen. I'm extremely glad. So I saw the 710, and then my eyes went up to the Q score. I saw a 48, which was a point down from a Q49 from the earlier score. Then I thought, what else? And I saw V38, and it was like unbelievable. Because in none of, I think only once I had scored a 38 or a more in one of my practice tests. I did not get a V38 in any of my official tests. By the time I had come up from my second preparation, I had already exhausted all of my GMAT prep tests.
got it.
And when you reattempt those are inflated scores actually, because you more or less know what questions repeat or actually on the reattempt of the official mocks as well. So I had not actually scored more than once, more than a V38. So I was actually very happy with the score.
Got it. Okay, that's excellent. Excellent. One other question, I think, about the GMAT. We'll then talk about that one question that you have. Um, so you also wrote to the GMAT support team a few times. How was that experience?
Yeah, that experience was great. The communications that the I had with the e-GMAT team was always very crisp to the point. And and I would like to thank the e-GMAT team, because they have constantly supported me, and I believe that is the case with every individual. I am no different. And the support that you guys provide is absolutely fantastic. You are there to answer each and every question. Like I I I I was in this doubtful state of mind whether to attempt verbal first this time. That also I asked, and for that also I got a very crisp and frank answer. So it's not that you guys only answer to the course spectrum even general queries are welcome. I did not feel that, oh, this is not my domain, I will not answer this, and some such kind of an attitude. No, absolutely not. So I am pretty happy with this support that has been provided. Every time I could ping to the e-GMAT team, I would get an answer in what, about max to max 12 hours. That was the turnaround time. So that's absolutely fantastic. It's a single thread. It's an amazing Gmail thread that I have in my email account. It's a single thread that started in the very first week of July when I contacted Sandeep, and till the date when I got this interview call from you, it's a single thread of around what, 50, 60 emails.
Yeah, I was seeing that there's about 30, 40 email exchanges over there. Okay, that's good to know. Do you remember, other than Sandeep, who already you interact with?
Yeah, I remember Nava.
Nava, okay, yes.
Yes, and I'm sorry I'm missing out on name, but I have contacted with a lot of guys.
So probably Ashutosh or Archit or Dhananjay
Yes.
or Deepak.
Yes, Dhananjay, I remember.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Yeah, they form part of our customer success team. Yes, and they're full time just doing customer success. That's their job.
Yeah, I totally understand, because having such a short turnaround time with all those crisp answers and everything, it definitely must be a very dedicated team working
Yeah,
there with you.
in fact, these things which you saw. So, as I was showing you this piece over here, where you can now go to the last 30 questions, and this you can see the accuracy versus timing over here. This is something that these guys really work with our tech team. I was not involved in it at all. They're picking all of this out and really think, hey, students need that. So, similarly with the attempts piece over here, the sorting by type over here. This is something that these guys came up with, and the fact that you probably did not see the search box over here.
Yeah.
So the fact that you can now search with a semantic quiz over here, this is something so that you can just focus on that
Okay.
piece over here. This is something that they're all coming up with.
This is actually great stuff. I mean, it's very, very important. Last time, the difference between last time and this time also was that I was actually very sure about where I'm lacking, because these stats help you to exactly gauge where your shortcomings are, not just by section type, but the very detail. Like if you're not doing well on assumptions, it will absolutely highlight like that you are doing, that your assumptions is assumption question type on CR is a weak type of your weaker suit of your. So that helps you understand and practice particularly for that type as well. This is absolutely fantastic, this statistics that you create.
Yeah, I think this is something that we're really proud of. A lot of people love the quality of questions, B, the detailed solutions that are there, and C, the stats that it generates automatically for you guys.
Yes.
So let's talk about your post GMAT now. So we've talked a lot about your GMAT, and thank you for all of that input, all of those inputs that you provide. So you really said, okay, how do you answer the question, what do you want to do post your MBA, given that a lot could change, and given that you only have part of the picture in your head. So let me just talk about the intent of those questions. I think there are 2 or 3 things when it comes to the intent. First of all, a B school wants to know that what you want to do post your MBA is a viable profession, a profession that seems that someone post an MBA should do. So, for example, if you want to say, okay, I want to become a cricket player post my MBA, it's like, why the hell are you doing an MBA? You shouldn't be doing that, right? So it should be one of those primary buckets, because remember this, B schools, a good B school specifically, and we're talking about good business schools over here. So these are business schools who live in, who exist to provide a good return on investment to you. Not only those schools who really say, I'm going to take your money and then it doesn't matter what you do. So they want to make sure that that you are in a viable place. So if you really say, I want to go into consulting, I want to do finance, I want to do marketing, go corporate strategy, like, okay, viable profession. We have people who recruit in this case from here. And which is where you have, if you in the US, for example, you have these specific schools where, Harvard, for example, will take a lot of consulting. Stern and Columbia will take a lot for finance. GSP, Chicago will take a lot for finance, because they have recruiters coming in there, and their incoming class has that kind of an inclination as well. So that what kind of recruiters come there, the kind of professors that teach there, that shapes the kind of people they take in, their aspirations. So if your aspirations are in finance, and maybe you want to do private equity, maybe you want to do corporate finance, maybe you want to do venture capital, maybe you want to be a stock analyst. Okay, it doesn't matter. You could change that, but if your aspirations are in finance, you're probably not going to be an HR manager. Yes. And so that's kind of one piece which is there. The second piece which they're looking for is, do you have a realistic expectation of what the school will do for you? Okay, and that's a very big thing, which is, if throughout your life you've let's say been someone who's been super duper technical in within your company, you've never even been involved in, you only come at the last stage of project execution, where in a tech project everything has been written and all you're doing is coding. You're not even interacting with the customers and all of that stuff, and then you really say, I want to become a consultant. That's kind of a huge thing. I mean, you've not done anything that tells you that you can be a consultant.
Right.
So on a professional life now, if the same guy who's this geeky coder also on the other hand has been a part of a Toastmasters club, that's a completely different thing then, because they really say, okay, here's a guy who's smart, who's geeky, but and he wants to be a consultant is what he says, but he's been a part of this Toastmasters club where he has arisen through the ranks. So there is that other potential that we see out there. So the realism of what a school will provide, because you may want to be a consultant, but if you're a geeky guy and if you've not done anything to really validate whether you want to be a consultant, then the school won't be able to help you. So that's the other piece that the school wants to really do. Now, you may say, I want to be a consultant. You might end up kind of working in corporate strategy. That's okay, as long as, if you were to become a consultant and if that's a valid path that the school determines that's a viable path for you, then that's okay, because, if you're suitable to be a consultant, you'd be suitable to work in corporate strategy, corporate marketing role as well. So that's the when they ask, what do you want to do post your MBA? What they're really asking is, what do you think, given your background plus what the school will provide to you, what do you think would be a good path for you? It doesn't need to be the path that you have to take, but it's a viable path that you think that you will be able to take. It doesn't even need to be the best path that you should take. It should be a path that is a good path, one of the viable options. And you have to justify that. So for example, let's talk about another guy who's an engineer who says, I want to go in finance. So if you're an engineer and you want to go in finance, if you on a professional side, you've not done anything in finance. So how do you do that? You actually then take a CFA on the side. You actually take certain finance courses through Coursera or one of those other places. So at least to show that you have some inclination over there. You maybe, start advising a couple of startups on their finance pieces over there. So essentially what you're really giving to school is to really say, hey, I have this professional piece, which is something which I work for a living, but there is these other things which prove to you that I am interested in this. I've invested time in this. So when I come in, I'm not just this guy who's been a coder. I'm also this guy who's passed a CFA, who's worked with these other companies, maybe in part-time. Maybe I'm not getting paid for it, but that doesn't matter. It shows that I have an interest. It shows that I'm willing to put in the effort. What the schools don't want is the way, don't consider an MBA to be an engineering school where everyone goes and they go through a branch and then there's a placement, and ultimately because there's a placement, companies come and pick you up. Because there is no exact match. A company just says, okay, your GPA is good, you've probably done well on an aptitude test, and I'm going to pick you up. You're hired as a fresher and I'm going to groom you. In a B school, there is a matchmaking that happens.
All right.
And are you going to be one of the desirable matches for one of the possible options out there? That's what they're trying to figure out. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. So I have one question. So what I get it from what you have told me is that an absolute change of your field altogether is a rare possibility when you go through the MBA, right? Like, for example,
it's a more challenging possibility. I won't call it rare. It happens a lot, but it requires more effort.
all right. Like, for
So,
example, I have been into consulting, technical consulting only in my field for the past 5 years. So now I want to explore the broader field of consulting, not just technical consulting, the industry as a whole, different type of projects, different type of industries to work on. So that I feel is a viable option.
it just depends on how you construct it. Let me just tell you my story. I was a hardcore researcher before my MBA, so this is back in the year 2000. I was making. So this is, you're talking about the year 2000 is where when you had the Nokia 71. I don't know. Have you seen the movie The Matrix, the first one?
Yes.
So in this, remember they had that phone that would slide out.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So that was the phone that is the phone that was the hot thing in there at that time. So we're talking about those are the phones that existed. The kind of phones that I was working on were the phones that were from 3 years ago. So in 2000, I was working on those phones. I was that geeky kind of a guy, and I worked for Nokia. And when during my MBA, so my MBA goal was to start my own business. Was in education space. Was nothing to do with this, with what I was doing, by the way. So but then while I was doing all of this research, I had also shown how I had risen to the ranks of someone who actually was playing a key role in project proposals. So that kind of made the business school believe I could do this. Okay,
All right.
but then just that wasn't enough, because a lot of people who were from a similar background to mine weren't able to make that transition into. So post my MBA, I went into a strategic marketing role. Most of my colleagues could not do that. The reason I was able to do that is because during my MBA, I did 5 internships, 4 of them which were in marketing or business development.
Okay. Okay.
So,
You have to put in a lot of effort.
So yeah, you have to chart that career transition. Remember this: we always make decisions which lower the risk for us. So as B schools do the same thing, employers do the same thing. So if you can show those 3 or 4 internships in addition to this, that risk would be lowered. And the risk would be lowered. Why? Because as you go into a job interview, they would have really interesting questions to ask you, and you'll have really interesting answers for them if you've really done that work. But if you just go and do an MBA without doing those internships, without having those practical experiences, they're not going to ask you what are the 5 forces that we're talking about. That doesn't give you anything.
Right.
So I mean, for my first internship, I got 95 rejects before I got an acceptance.
Oh, okay.
But after my second internship, everything that I applied to, every job, every internship I applied to, I got into. Not a single rejection.
Okay.
So just because I had those other things to talk about. So it's a lot of people do this in other schools. So I went to Babson. It's not a tier 1 school. It gave me a full fellowship. But in other schools, for example, so IESE Spain really talks about what they call as a triple career change, where you change of geography, change of industry, change of function. And about 22% of their class does a triple career change.
Okay.
So, and again, some of them, pretty much 70% of them are international, so they have to do change of geography anyway. But industry and function is still a pretty significant number.
Yes. Okay.
So it's just that you have to chart it out. That's basically it.
Yeah. So what I understand is, in my case also, I am looking for an industry as well as a function change. I don't know how much my function will change, but definitely it will not remain technical. But my industry will definitely change, because as I told you regarding the infrastructure industry in India especially, I would like to.
So I think the industry change is also a very dependent thing. But for you, for example, when I started out, I went from a researcher to a marketing guy, but I was in the wireless industry in cell phones. And from there on, when I started as my first job, I was a wireless marketing guy in an industrial wireless company.
Okay.
Okay, and a strategic marketing guy for the wireless division in an industrial wireless company. So technically, you could call my industry was changed, but there is that third dimension to it,
Yeah.
which remained the same, which is what the
Same.
key was the key for them.
Definitely. Okay.
So don't discard what you have. Don't think it won't help you. It'll help you a lot as you go post your MBA. It's just it may not be in the infrastructure industry. It may not be that kind of consulting that you're doing.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
anything else that I can answer, Soumya?
No, thank you very much.
All right, good. I'm glad.
My questions. Yeah.
So Soumya, someone from the team will reach out to you. Maybe Nava or DJ will reach out to you asking for a review. It'd be great if you can provide a review on GMAT Lab.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nava.
I can do that.
Okay, thank you, Soumya. Good luck. And keep me updated as to, what happens with ISB and IIMs.
Yeah, sure. I will keep you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.